On the morning of her wedding, Emily was ready to take her steps toward a future filled with love. But her German shepherd Rex had other plans. As she began walking down the aisle, something unexpected happened. Rex rushed in front of her, blocking her path. He barked fiercely, his stance stiff, as if he were trying to protect her from something. His urgency was unlike anything she had ever seen. "Rex," Emily whispered, confused. "What's the matter, boy?" She reached out, trying to guide him aside, but Rex didn't move. His barks grew louder, more frantic, piercing through the stillness of the ceremony. The music came to an abrupt halt. Guests exchanged uncertain glances, their whispers rising. It was clear that something was terribly wrong. Rex didn't calm down. He wasn't just being playful or stubborn. There was something deeply unsettling in his behavior. Emily's heart began to race. She had known this dog for years. He had always been calm, friendly, and protective. But today he seemed almost desperate. "Dad, what's going on?" Emily's groom asked in a quiet voice, clearly concerned. "I don't know," she replied, her voice shaking as she knelt to get closer to Rex. "What is it, Rex? What's wrong?" Rex's eyes met hers, wide with fear. His tail was tucked, his body rigid. There was no denying it now. He wasn't just reacting. He was trying to warn her. He was scared, and that fear was now contagious. "Emily, maybe we should just let us handle this," her father suggested, stepping forward with a hand extended to pull Rex away. But Rex wouldn't budge. He growled, a deep, low rumble that made the hair on the back of Emily's neck stand on end. The dog wasn't acting, like himself. Something was horribly wrong, and it felt as if he was trying to protect her from something ahead, something she couldn't see. "Emily," the groom whispered again, his voice edged with panic. "What's happening?" "I don't know," she said, her voice breaking. She looked into Rex's pleading eyes, her heart heavy with an unexplainable sense of dread. "Why are you acting like this?" Rex barked again, this time louder and more urgently. His eyes never left hers, and for the first time Emily understood. He was trying to tell her something. Her instincts screamed at her to listen, to trust him. "Please," she whispered, kneeling down beside him. "What's wrong, Rex? What do you need me to see?" The guests were still murmuring, the tension growing thick in the air. Emily could hear them, but she barely registered their voices. Her focus was entirely on Rex, who now seemed more frantic than ever. His body was shaking, and he was pulling her toward the side of the house. "I'll be right back," Emily said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and confusion. She didn't know why, but she knew she had to follow Rex. There was something important he was trying to show her. With no time to explain, she followed the dog as he trotted away from the ceremony. His pace was swift, almost as if he was running toward something. Emily hurried behind him, her wedding gown dragging along the ground, her heart pounding in her chest. She had no idea what she was walking into, but she couldn't ignore the pull to keep moving. Rex led her around the house, through the garden, and finally stopped at a small garage door. He paused in front of it, staring at it with an intensity that made Emily's breath catch. He barked again, louder this time, as if urging her to hurry. Emily stood frozen for a moment, the feeling of panic building inside her. What was behind this door? What had Rex been trying to protect her from? She could feel her heart racing as she reached out and pulled the door open. The sound of the door creaking echoed in the stillness, and a wave of dread washed over her. As the door moved upward, Emily's heart skipped a beat. The unknown was waiting on the other side, and Rex had brought her here for a reason. Whatever it was, it had to be something serious, something that could not wait. The dim light inside the garage barely illuminated the cold concrete floor, but it was enough to reveal a sight Emily could never have anticipated. There, lying motionless, was her younger brother, Jake. His body was crumpled in an unnatural way, his eyes closed, and his skin ashen. The world around her seemed to slow as her heart dropped into her stomach. "Jake!" Emily cried, rushing to his side. Her hands shook as she reached out to touch his face, but the shock of seeing him so still sent waves of panic through her. He wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing, was he? She could feel her knees buckling beneath her as the room seemed to tilt. "Jake, wake up, please," she whispered, her voice trembling. Rex, who had followed her into the garage, stood close by. The dog let out a low whine, nuzzling her hand as if trying to comfort her or tell her something. Emily's mind raced as she sank to her knees beside her brother. Rex's presence was a strange mix of calm and urgency. It was as though he knew something was horribly wrong and was trying to guide her. She checked Jake's pulse, praying for some sign that he was still alive. Her fingers found a faint beat, too faint, too slow. Panic surged through her chest. Jake had always been healthy, but now he lay there, unresponsive and pale. What had happened? Was it a sudden collapse? A heart attack? Without hesitation, Emily pulled out her phone, her hands trembling as she dialed 911. "Please, you need to send an ambulance. My brother, he's not breathing right. He's not moving. Please help." She gasped, barely able to get the words out. Rex remained right by Jake's side, not moving, not leaving. His eyes stayed locked on the boy, and his body seemed poised as if to protect him at all costs. Emily held onto Jake's hand, her voice breaking as she whispered, "Please, Jake, hang on, don't leave me, please." Time dragged on. Every second felt like an eternity, but Rex didn't budge. He stayed by Jake, a silent, steady presence through the chaos. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics rushed in, springing into action. Emily moved back, trying to give them space, but her heart was still racing, fear choking her words. One of the paramedics leaned over Jake, checking his vitals. "His blood sugar levels are dangerously low," she said. "He was close to passing. Out. But he's lucky you found him when you did." Emily let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It wasn't a heart attack, but it had been a close call. Jake had a history of low blood sugar, but she hadn't realized how bad it had gotten. No one had noticed, except for Rex. The paramedics worked quickly, stabilizing Jake and getting him on the stretcher. They moved him into the ambulance and Emily followed them, her mind still spinning. Before she climbed into the ambulance, she turned to Rex, who sat calmly in the driveway, watching. She dropped to her knees beside him, her hands shaking with emotion. "Rex," she whispered, her voice thick with gratitude. "You saved his life. You're a hero." Rex wagged his tail gently, looking up at her with those soft eyes that seemed to say, "I was just doing my job." But Emily knew better. He wasn't just a dog. He was her protector, her guardian. A few days later, Emily's wedding was finally able to continue. But this time, as she walked down the aisle, Rex was right there beside her. His tail wagged proudly as he stood beside her, a true part of the family. At the altar, as she held her groom's hands, Emily looked out at the gathered guests, her voice cracking as she shared the story of the previous days. "I know this sounds unbelievable," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "But I truly believe Rex is my guardian angel. He saved Jake's life." The room was silent for a moment, the guests absorbing the weight of her words. Then slowly a wave of admiration spread across the crowd. Everyone had heard the tale of the brave dog who had saved the day in a way no one had expected, silent but fiercely loyal. As Emily and her groom exchanged vows, Rex sat quietly at her feet, his eyes never leaving her face. "Sometimes, Emily," said softly, her voice filled with emotion, "love speaks without words. Just a bark and a life is saved."